Dr. Denley, give you a very brief introduction because I really don't want to cut into your time. But our Dr. Tristan Denley, who's our Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs and Chief Academic Officer since May of 2017, will speak to us this morning. If I gave a full background for him, it would take his entire 45 minutes. But I'll just mention briefly that some of you have noticed that he has a northern accent. And that's because he came to us from 2 previous positions in Tennessee. He's a Tennessee accent. He was Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs for the Tennessee Regents. Before that, Provost and Vice President at Austin Peay State University. And Dr. Denley, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
All right, thank you. I will try to speak in my best Tennessee accent, as you can tell. It's always been a well-known trait of mine. Thanks, Barbara. Thanks everyone for being on the call today. I really want to open this up by just really giving my heartfelt thanks for all the hard work that you've been doing really over the last 6 months, which I think for most of us, I'm sure you're the same, seems like half a lifetime. It seems like it's hard now to look back and realize there was a time before this, and I think we all know that there will be a time after this, but it's still a challenging time for us to be going through. As I say, I really want to thank everyone for all of the hard work that they've been doing to bring our campuses back, to now be teaching classes and seeing our students and working with them in the ways that we are. I know that's taken a tremendous amount of work on everyone's part, and I really want to thank you for it. I also want to just take a few seconds just to recognize that it is September 11th, and clearly the anniversary of a terrible tragedy here in this country. I just want to, it seems not right to begin the day without recognizing the soberness and the solemnity of a day like this. So with that, I'll move on to the work that we're trying to accomplish across the system. Clearly, work number one right now really is to try to concentrate on delivering education to our students in these really difficult and trying times. And so there's a lot of work happening around the system to help faculty to have familiarity and expertise and training and resources to be able to teach in these new environments in hybrid and high flex and remote and all kinds of different variations of instruction that still incorporate in an intentional way a face-to-face experience for our students, but still recognize that to do that we have to do that in a way which keeps instructor, student, staff members, all of our everyone as safe as they possibly can be. So there's lots of work that's happening that way, and there's actually some new trainings which we're just launching just right now, and I hope maybe Jonathan Hull can tell you more about that as the morning goes on. But we're doing a lot of work into trying to understand how we can help faculty members to think about academic mindset kinds of aspects, how they can bring those ideas and techniques into their classroom. We now have a substantial amount of data to suggest that exactly those kinds of aspects, so these ideas around purpose and belonging and inclusion and growth and fixed mindset, those and self-efficacy and value, these kinds of ideas that help students to understand the purpose and the reason and the behind why it is that they're learning, what it is that they're learning, why the different subject areas are part and parcel of their overall course of study, and the fact that, sure, hard work on their part will actually enable them to be more successful in the work that they're doing, and somehow dispel this idea that some students have it, some students don't, some students are math people, some students are not, some students are English people, some students are not. And there's not really anything that anyone can do about that to dispel that idea, that fixed mindset idea, and instead to really reinforce the fact that everyone with hard work is able to improve and increase and make progress in what it is that they're learning. We know that actually those are the ideas that are key to enabling more students to be successful. So again, happy to answer what I can about those ideas, but I hope Jonathan later on will have an opportunity to tell you about the work that we're doing in providing those kinds of resources. As you know, this is part and parcel of the Momentum Year work that we've all been working together on now for more than a couple of years. Last year, fall 2019, that we fully launched the Momentum Year at all 26 campuses, and that really went off very well last year. Of course, this work continues and has had to be somewhat retooled in this new environment. But we're also looking for ways in which we can take this Momentum Year idea, which was, of course, completely really focused on aspects of the first year, what happens when students first arrive on campus and their introduction to university and college study. And we've also been extending that idea to what we call the Momentum Approach. And the Momentum Approach, the idea of that was to take these ideas that were the building blocks of the Momentum Year and then move them out across the rest of the student experience. I think hopefully everyone on the call recognizes that we needed to begin somewhere. We couldn't just begin with all of higher education and somehow begin working on transforming all of it. And so using those ideas specifically focused on the first year, where there were some very well established and well attested evidence-based practices that we together could put in place, that made all the sense in the world, but it never was the case that we could ever say, well, that's all of it. I think if I look at all of our campuses, our one-year graduation rate is never very good. That's very few students who graduate in a single year, of course. And so understanding how it is that we can work on those same kinds of strategies all across the student experience, really from the pathway in from high school or transferring in as an adult student all the way through, and then finally understanding what that looks like as those students transition from graduating with us into their first careers. That's what we're looking at. And so there are a number of different aspects of that are now underway. So maybe the first of those that well worth having on your radar is what's called No More, Borrow Less. And No More, Borrow Less is a system-wide initiative around financial aid to think how we can recognize how we can enable students to make more informed decisions about their financial aid by providing a significantly better set of information and information structure. What we discover is that most students have very, very small amounts of information about what it is that they are getting into as they borrow money for financial aid. They appear to be making decisions, and appear to be making decisions really on a sort of on a binary level, saying, well, am I going to borrow or am I not going to borrow? Clearly, if I don't borrow, then I don't borrow. But if I do borrow, well, then most often students who borrow, they just simply borrow all of the funds that are available to them, even though they don't necessarily, sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't necessarily need to borrow all of those funds. And so what we want to do is to make sure that as students enter into those decisions, that they do so recognizing what it is that's incumbent on that, what the implications are of that, what it means for them to borrow, and then to make the most informed decisions and the right decisions for them as a student. This is now, as I say, part and parcel of this initiative, No More, Borrow Less. And what we now are already doing is delivering interactive digital communications to every student. So their financial aid information is no longer a static piece of paper that arrives with some mysterious numbers and language on it. Instead, now they are dynamic, informative communications that are particularized to them, so they can see exactly what they borrowed, exactly what they are eligible to borrow, exactly what scholarships they have, exactly what eligibility they have for Pell and all kinds of other different financial aid, and then enable them really to make the most informed decisions that they can about their financial aid. We know that that has significant implications for students to persist through college, but we also know that it has very significant impact post-graduation when students now have to confront the paying back of their student loans. Other aspects of that momentum approach is, I think, I know many of you were part of the conversations around the Gen Ed redesign that we began now almost 18 months ago. Clearly, at the beginning of this year, we had a kind of an initial structure for what that might look like, and there was a lot of conversation around the system. I think that I was very happy that there was exactly that kind of conversation, that kind of feedback. It's exactly what we need as a community to be able to move forward in that into a new life of our general education. It's not going to surprise you that, at least for right now, that Gen Ed redesign is on hold to really engage with the faculty body across the system in ways that I think are incumbent on trying to get everybody, to help hear all voices and to incorporate those into what it is that we're trying to do. That's a really difficult task in the environment that we currently find ourselves in, and more than that, we know that to undertake the kinds of work that we want to do with this Gen Ed redesign will take a substantial amount of work of looking at what we're currently doing and changing in ways that are important. Now is not really the time to be undertaking that kind of work. People's attentions are quite rightly elsewhere and retooling the courses that they're already teaching and working with the students in this new environment. And so the Gen Ed redesign work is currently on hold until really a new window of opportunity appears. I'm not going to be clairvoyant to know exactly when that will be, but and there's, I think, still enthusiasm to move forward expeditiously. But for right now, the Gen Ed redesign is on hold. I will, however, share with you that over the summer I did meet quite extensively with the history RAC and also with the political science RAC to clarify this issue of. I think some of you were aware there was a sort of an issue to be clarified about exactly how we would deal with history and with political science and with the legislative requirement that every student should graduate with an understanding of Georgia and U.S. history and Constitution. And so we certainly have clarified that in the new general education requirement, just as in the current one, no change in that expectation that there will still be a requirement for a history class and there will still be a requirement for a political science class, and no change in that from at least in the number of hours that those subjects are required to be part of the Gen Ed. Along those same lines, there has been also a group working around data science, and so again, I want to thank Jonathan and Barbara too for the work that they've done in bringing that. So this was a group of faculty members from all across the system who together have created the design for a freshman level data science class. And so later on this fall, we'll be taking that design to the Gen Ed Council, and then once hopefully the Gen Ed Council will be in support of that, and that will then allow any campus that would like to introduce a freshman level data science class to adopt that overall strategy, that overall structure of this freshman level data science class, and then incorporate that into their general education. Again, I don't think I need to persuade you that we're in a new world where data is of extraordinary importance. Really, no matter what what your discipline, what your trade. If you, it doesn't matter whether you're on the science side or the art side or the business side or the social science side or whatever side you're on. Today, understanding and being able to utilize data in ways that are in keeping with your own discipline and your own lens on the world, I think this is of extraordinary importance. And so this new data science class is exactly designed to do that, to enable students to be able to see how it is that they might be able to utilize some data ideas and data science techniques in their genre, in their subject area. The last thing I'll say, and then maybe hopefully we'll have a few minutes for me to answer any questions that you might have. Last thing I'll talk about is the work that we've been doing around co-requisites. So again, this has been a several-year project that really just began in this system even back in 2016. That math faculty and English faculty began to restructure the way in which they were teaching students who came in needing. They came in less well prepared in math and English than would enable them to be successful in their college degrees. What was recognized at that point was that this back in 2016, this promising practice of, rather than students working their way through a sequence of developmental courses, instead enrolling those students directly into a credit-bearing math class or a credit-bearing English class, freshman writing 1101, English 1101, or college algebra, quantitative reasoning, or math modeling. That enrolling those students directly into those credit-bearing classes and then requiring them also to be part of a support class, a so-called co-requisite class that amplifies the support around those math classes or those English courses to help them master the crucial skills. That kind of strategy back in 2016, as I say, was a very promising practice beginning to be adopted by a number of states. By the time I came into the system there in 2017, the data was actually abundantly clear that students were much more successful, much more likely to be able to successfully pass that freshman math or English class using that co-requisite structure. And so back in fall 2018, as a system, we moved to adopt that format of developmental instruction. So it's now the case across the system that that's the only way in which developmental education is being delivered. I hope it is the case that at some point you have seen the data, the success behind that work. It is now the case that we know abundantly clearly that those students, not only is it the case that those students who were in co-requisite classes were more likely to pass and with better grades the credit-bearing math class and English class than their colleagues who had been through the developmental sequence and actually reached that course. They were, of course, more than twice as likely to actually pass that credit-bearing class compared with the colleagues who began back in that developmental sequence and then had to work their way through the sequence and eventually perhaps pass the credit-bearing math class and English class. So essentially overnight, we were able to double the likelihood that those students were able to be successful in those freshman math and English classes. I think some of you at least have seen me talk before about how crucial those courses are to overall success and degrees. I'm sure that the same kinds of questions now go through your head as have gone through mine over the years, that to now say, well, okay, they were successful there. Do they continue to be successful? Are they retained? How do they do in their next math, their next English, their next math kind of course, their sciences courses, all those kinds of, is it the case that the successes that they have gained there in that math and English course continues, or is that just kind of a temporary aberration? And then similarly, what are ways in which we still might be able to improve and increase the likelihood of success for these students, again, in this crucial kind of work? We know answers to both of those questions now. We know it to be the case that the successes that students are gaining in those early math and English classes are not left there, but continue, that actually when they move on into second semester English or they move on into subsequent math classes, that they are flourishing in those classes, doing every bit as well, if not better, than of course, many fewer students who used to similarly succeed in the other structure. But more than that, we also know that, for instance, in math, many more of those students who begin in college algebra are moving on into pre-calculus and then the calculus sequence and are flourishing as they do that. We see that work has very significant implications when it comes to outcome disparity for students of color and also for low-income students. So again, what we've seen in the latest co-requisite data is that we've effectively eliminated any kind of difference in outcome for students based on income or race, which I think is something we all absolutely celebrate. The last aspect of that I'll touch on is that we are also beginning to understand how it is that the structure of that co-requisite, how it is that that course is actually arranged. Hopefully, I'm still there. Are you still able to hear me? Because on my team, it says, "Oh dear, your call has dropped." Can you all still hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. Complete bin for me calling in on the phone. So, as one of the things that we really wanted to know is, well, what's the best way? What are the best strategies for us to be able to arrange the structure of that co-requisite course across our system? And this was deliberate. We allowed, enabled faculty members to arrange the structure of their co-requisite courses in a variety of ways, having the same instructor in the co-requisite in the credit-bearing class, or different instructors, having the course itself, the class itself, be a mixed class. So students who are co-requisite, students who are not co-requisite in the classes together, both in math or in English, or to only have co-requisite students together in a section and then having non-co-requisite together in a section. So there was that difference, and also differences in how many hours are part of the co-requisite experience. Is that a single hour? Is it 2 hours? Is it 3 hours? And again, you can imagine. So there's 12. Even what I just talked about, 12 different kind of possibilities of the combinations of those strategies in math and also in English. But of course, many other possibilities too about the way those courses are arranged, the kind of the leadership, the training, who it is who's teaching those courses, all of those things. So we've been very carefully trying to analyze all of those different possibilities to see what we might be able to see about all of those strategies. It seems, as our data suggests, actually do improve outcomes and still improve outcomes vastly over where we were with the developmental sequence. But what we now see is that among that combination of strategies, strategies that use the same instructor for the co-requisite and the non-co-requisite piece, and strategies that use at least 2 hours of co-requisite instruction, those appear to be significantly the most successful. In math, it appears as well that having the co-requisite students, only the co-requisite students in the class together, and not having a mixed class, also appears to have a good impact. So the combination in math appears to be the best combination in math appears to be at least 2 hours of co-requisite with the same instructor and having co-requisite students together in the class. In English, the strategy appears to be at least 2 hours of co-requisite with the same instructor. And then we really need more data to see whether or not it's better to have only the co-requisite students or have a mixed class. As it stands, our data suggests that having the students only co-requisite students in the class together, just as they are in math, appears to produce the best results. But the other strategy, where there's a mixed class, also produces results that are approaching as good. And so hopefully this year, as we more carefully analyze the data, we may be able to shed some light on that. As I say, what we know is that combination of strategies produces results that are stronger on campuses, not only just as a sort of a figurehead kind of results of the overall pass rate, but actually pass rates all across the preparation spectrum. Those combination of strategies appear to be stronger. We know, of course, that information doesn't magically create faculty members or the possibility to be able to utilize that strategy, but we will be working with math and English faculty and math and English departments and institutions over the coming months and years to gradually move our combination of prerequisite strategies into places where the data and evidence suggests we get the strongest results. So with that, I will pause and take a breath and sip a cup of tea, and I'm happy to try to answer questions that you might have. I'm still trying to rejoin the teams, so I think for right now, if you have a question, if you could just unmute yourself and speak out loud, that would be great, and I will do my best to try to rejoin the teams, and then hopefully we'll be able to read the chat and so on. So with that, I'll open it up. Thanks.
I think somebody's trying to ask a question, but I think you're muted.
We just jump in.
You're cutting in and out.
Can you is that an outlet?
If you can type, if you're in a place where you can type into the chat box, I'll read it to Dr. Denley.
Okay.
Can I ask a question while we're waiting for the other question? Okay, Beth Howells, Georgia Southern. In terms of, I know, Dr. Denley, you can't predict the future, but in terms of this pause in the Gen Ed redesign, what do you imagine institutions should do during this time to prepare for that? Are there certain conversations that can be happening now as we think ahead? Should we be planning using the guidelines that we already have, or do you imagine there will be still some substantial changes we should wait on?
So, so what I think is the were part and parcel of the Gen Ed redesign where that were really initially envisaged back in the when we did the work in College 2025, and we're the design principles that we were trying to put in place. Those design principles really did have universal support across the system. How it is that we would then go about taking those design principles and implementing them in a system-wide redesign, that was the stage that we were working our way through, and how it is that we how it is that we actually instance that those ideas. So I think it's well worth going back to those design principles and looking for ways in which you can begin to incorporate those ideas right now. The kinds of ideas that we had around right from the very start, enabling students to appreciate and understand the purpose of what it is that they were studying. I think that's work that you can begin to you can already begin to do, and I know a number of faculty groups have already begun to do that. This is really coming from a place that recognizes that yes, what students are learning in college is really important. I hope that I don't have to persuade anybody of that. But what is often much less clear to students is why why it is that they are studying things that are somewhat distant from their own discipline. Why are historians having to learn science? Why are scientists having to learn history? And so ways in which you can deliberately incorporate and address those kinds of questions in the classroom, I think that's part of the picture of the gen ed redesign that doesn't require structural change to already begin to introduce that. Same kind of ideas around high impact practices and what are often required, sort of talked about as the soft skills, or so ways in which we recognize that it isn't just about the subject-based learning that we. I think this was one of the very powerful insights of the gen ed redesign was that we are not only teaching particular subject-based disciplines when we do the work of the general education, but we're also teaching skills in critical thinking and in creative thinking and problem solving and all of those kinds of other aspects. And again, ways in which those things can be intentionally introduced into the curriculum. As I say, I'm certainly not asserting that faculty members are not discussing and utilizing those kinds of ideas right now. It's just that it generally happens right now in very individualized kinds of ways. And so ways in which, again, there can be a more systematic or more institutionally based approach to those kinds of ideas. Again, that doesn't necessarily require structural change, but I think having conversations about how that can happen, those conversations which are already taking place on campuses. So it's a couple of ideas. Happy to, if you have a follow-up, I'm happy to.
Dr. Denley, Dr. Eddie Namias asked a question via chat. Same basic question: is there any timeline for the potential rollout of the new core, and how can RACs be most useful in the process?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. So, I think RACs being useful in the process, so there are, I think, the conversations that I just alluded, and I think it would be a great conversation for different RACs to have to talk through those design principles that we were trying to bring into play when we did when we created the original structure back at the end of last year. I don't have a firm timeline as to what will now happen. I think the pattern that we were in was really we had the beginnings of there was a structure of the gen ed redesign that I presented to the board. It was not intended to be a completed piece of work. Instead, it was where the implementation committee was at that point, and we wanted to present that to the board as a set of ideas that then both the board, but then also, of course, the rest of the community at large could respond to, and that response was always intended to be incorporated into the structure as we move forward. I think we have to recognize that right now it's just very hard to be able to get that kind of community-wide kind of input. I think we'd envisaged me doing this fall, what was it, Barbara, maybe 8 or 10 or something like that, large open fora at campuses where, all comers could ask ideas and share ideas and ask questions and as well as that, really engaging with lots of different other groups. The ability to be able to do that effectively right now is just, I think we all know, that makes it much more challenging to do that in a meaningful way. And so we need to wait until we are able to do that work in that way to be able to move forward. So yeah, thanks.
We have another question, Dr. Denley, entered in chat. It says, currently institutions are allowed to offer 1 to 3 hours of wellness physical activity courses beyond the core. Will these still be allowed within the gen ed redesign?
Yeah, so I think if it's okay with you, I'd prefer not to answer specific questions about what the new redesign will or won't be. As I said, the structure is we are in that in that place where we're we're still working to try to settle exactly what the structure will look like. So I think it's, you know, when we get to that phase where we, you know, where we are doing that, I think that will be the time to really hammer down such questions. But on the other hand, if it is the case that that your suggestion is that it should or shouldn't be, then, you know, that please, I'd be happy for you to share that, you know, that input with me or Jonathan or Barbara, and certainly as we move on with the work of creating the Gen Ed redesign, as we always have, we will incorporate that feedback into that structure.
Okay, we have another question from Michael Gunther. Should disciplines be thinking about creating and or formally proposing a written communication within the field course in what is now called Area F?
Sorry, Barbara, could you repeat that?
Yeah, I'll try. Sorry, I don't know what's going on.
Well,
Okay, I'll try again now. Should disciplines be thinking about creating or formally proposing a written communication in the field course in what is now called Area F?
So I do think that it's really well worth having some conversations with writing faculty on your campus. I think it is a great idea right now to begin having those conversations. I think I met with the writing faculty or the English RAC earlier on in the summer. It seems like a lifetime ago now, but I think there is I think I'm sure my guess is the English RAC chair is on the call today, so I hope that I didn't misrepresent the sentiment, but I think there's general support for the idea that that English faculty really want those first 2 semesters of writing to prepare students to have good, strong writing skills that allow them in a variety of different settings to be able to express their ideas in well-formed and cogent kinds of ways. And so I think it's always going to be a good idea to have an ongoing conversation with the English department and writing faculty about what are ways in which you might see working with them to make sure that the students in your discipline are prepared to do that well in the genre of your own field. I think it's ways in which we will make structural changes or decide not to in the Gen Ed as it unfolds. I think it's just premature to be able to assume that those things are going to happen. But I think the idea behind that which was to say that we really think that students should be well prepared to be able to write effectively in the genre of their discipline. That's an idea which transcends the work of structure. And so why not? I think it's perfectly reasonable for different RACs to engage, to engage the English RAC in having that conversation, and on campuses, departments to engage their English department in ways in which they can provide feedback about writing in their genre.
Do we have further questions? You can just speak out. You don't have to type them into chat.
I have a question, but it doesn't deal directly with anything that has been said up to now. Can I ask Dr. Dentley?
Sure.
Dr. Dentley, anyway. So
Sure.
recently at our, this is Eric Karshner for representing foreign languages. We just received a directive yesterday at our institution at Georgia Southern that for spring courses we could not have more than 15% of our courses online. And in foreign languages, I don't know if the same is. Years we've been working hard to offer our programs online. And so, you know, we've been doing that. And in the course of doing that over the years, you know, we have online programs now in Spanish, French, and German. We've been moving to get our Arabic, Latin, Chinese, and Japanese online as well. And so all of a sudden, you know, we're being chopped down to 15% when close to 50% of our courses up till now have been online. This is problematic. You know, I'm wondering where this is coming from.
So, so here's what I know and what I convey, and much of this is really couched in the fact that each individual institution has to make decisions about how it is that in the spring it will be able to bring about what I'm about to say. So it is the case in the spring that just as in the fall, we as a system will be providing instruction which is as much a face-to-face experience to our students as we as a system are able to provide. So we're asking campuses to as we did in the fall, to think about how it is that they may be able to structure that learning experience in such a way that we are providing as much of a face-to-face experience as we are able, ways in which recognizing the limitations of social distance and making sure that we recognize the safety concerns surrounding the virus, but what are ways in which we still can in intentional ways make a hybrid class be a hybrid class with a you know, with the face-to-face aspect of that class being a very intentional and meaningful part of that experience. Similarly, of course, there on every campus there are traditional face-to-face classes where students are still coming to classes, perhaps smaller classes than might have been in the past, but classes where they are engaging in the ways that they always have. So there certainly is across the system that work to be done to be able to figure out how each institution then delivers their spring classes in ways that to the greatest degree that they're able incorporates that face-to-face experience for their students. So I've not heard that response from Georgia Southern until you just told me. As I say, each individual campus is then approaching, as they did in the fall, how it is that they bring that about in a way that makes sense within their own campus context and culture. But that's the idea behind, I think, and construing the idea behind the strategy in the spring is, as I say, to try to present for the students the opportunity for as much of a face-to-face experience as the institution is able to deliver. Now, clearly, I don't know the details of your own particular institution or that dynamic in your department. It sounds like there's a conversation for you to have maybe with your dean about how to harmonize those kinds of ideas.
Is the 15% coming from the system?
I've not heard that number before, so.
Is there a percentage?
I've not distributed a percentage, so no.
Thank you.
But as I say, each individual campus needs to take their own, their own responsibility for doing that work. So, yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Denley. I realize that we are out of time and that you need to make it to your next meeting. If people have further questions, you can either type them into chat and I'll cut and paste them and send them to Dr. Denley, or you can send them to me as an email. I'm going to put everything together and send him remaining questions. So if you have additional questions, we'll still try to get Dr. Denley to answer them. Thank you very much.
I really want to thank everyone for, thanks so much for everyone's patience today. I'm so sorry that apparently I got thrown off the video part of the chat anyway, but I'm glad that still the audio continued and we were at least able I was able to get some of your questions answered. Thanks so much.
And the transition was almost imperceptible.
Well, good enough.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. Okay, everybody who's still with us, just a reminder that we are recording the meeting. I kind of hope to start with introductions all around. We're a very big group, so I'm not sure how well this is going to work, but I think to the extent that it's possible, it would be wonderful to have everybody introduce themselves. My dog is trying to help me introduce here. I hope you can't hear him too much. I'm Barbara Brown. I coordinate the Regents Advisory Committees, and just to give you a little background, before I did this coordinating job, I was a faculty member and a department chair, and I was a member of advisory committees. I was the chair of 2 committees, and I've served as liaison, still do, to several committees. So I've seen this process kind of from several different angles. What I'd like for as many of you as are willing to introduce yourself to do is just speak up, say which committee you're on, or if you're a liaison, you may have several committees. If you could turn your camera on while you do that, I realize mine isn't on, that would be wonderful, but you don't have to if you don't want to. So extroverts, speak up. The main.
Good morning, y'all. My name is Jonathan Watts-Hall. You've heard my name a couple of times today. I am the Director for Student Success here at the System Office, and I serve as the liaison to the data science, or not data science, computer sciences, the ACMS, the Math RAC, as well as the academic advising. And I'm really grateful to be here this morning and to meet y'all.
Good morning. This is Mohammed Davad. I'm the Dean of the Allen E. Paulson College of Engineering and Computing at Georgia Southern, and I'm chairing the Engineering Pathway Program.
Good morning, everybody. This is David Jenks at the University of West Georgia. I'm the interim provost and chair of the eCore RAC.
Good morning. This is Renata Elad from Tifton, Georgia. I'm the dean of the Stafford School of Business at ABAC, and I'm the chair-elect for the Business RAC.
Hi, I'm Deidre Greer, Dean of the College of Education and Health Profession at Columbus State University, and I am chair of the Educator Preparation RAC.
Hello, I'm
Good
Deanna
morning.
Gibson. I'm chair of the Department of Communication and chair of the Communication RAC, Columbus State University.
Good morning. This is Sharon Duhart, Atlanta Metropolitan State College, Director of Academic Advising and Student Success, representing the Advising RAC, Learning Support, and eCore.
Good morning. This is Indiran Pillai. I'm the chair of the Department of Biological and Environmental Sciences, and I'm chairing this year's Biological Sciences Academic Advisory RAC.
Good morning. I'm Rick Franza. I'm the Dean of the James M. Hall College of Business at Augusta University, and I'm the chair of the Business Administration, Management, and Economics RAC.
Good morning, I'm Tamitha Lambert. I'm the Director of Library Services at Middle Georgia State University, and I'm the chair for the Libraries RAC.
Good morning, my name's Allison Lyon. I'm the Assistant Director of the Academic Success Center at Georgia Southern University, and I'm the chair of the RAC for Learning Support.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Michelle Bratton. I'm from Georgia State University, and I'm the chair-elect of the History RAC.
And I'm Brian Toms. I'm at Georgia State University in Physics and Astronomy, and I'm chair of the Physics and Astronomy RAC.
Hello, I'm Linda Goodfellow at Georgia State University. I'm Senior Associate Dean, and I am chair of the Health Professions RAC.
Hi, this is Clayton Nix, chair of Kinesiology and Health Sciences Department at Columbus State University, and I chair the Kinesiology RAC.
Hi, I'm Beth Howells. I'm the chair of the Literature Department at Georgia Southern University and chair of the English RAC.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Trunzo. I am an associate professor at Augusta University, and I am the chair of the Anthropology RAC.
Hi, I'm Briksha Shah. I'm Director of Digital Learning Innovations at Kennesaw State. I'm chairing the Distance Ed RAC.
Good morning. I'm Linda Upchurch. I'm the Director of Nursing, the RN to BSN Bridge Program at East Georgia State College, and I am the Chair of the Academic Advising Committee on Nursing.
Good morning, everybody. This is Jennifer Knott at Columbus State University. I'm the director at the Center of Online Learning. I'm chair-elect of the Business Education RAC.
Hi, I'm Morgan Evans, and I'm the chair of the Arts and Sciences RAC, and I currently serve as the Dean of Science and Math at Georgia Southern.
Good morning. This is Linda Fox. I'm the Dean of the College of Family and Consumer Sciences at University of Georgia, and I'm the chair of the Family and Consumer Sciences RAC.
Good morning. I'm Melchor de Guzman. I'm a professor of criminal justice at Georgia Gwinnett College and the chair of Criminal Justice RAC.
Good morning. I'm Michael Gunther, also from Georgia Gwinnett College, history professor and chair of the History RAC.
Good morning. I'm Kimberly Gill. I'm the vice chair of the Political Science RAC and the current chair of the Department of Politics, Philosophy, and Public Administration at Columbus State.
Hey, I'm Catherine Matus. I'm interim chair at Clayton State and chair of the Mathematical Subjects RAC.
Hello, I'm DeLynn Armstrong Williams. I'm the Department Head of Political Science and International Affairs at the University of North Georgia, and I'm currently chair of the Political Science RAC.
Good morning. I'm Catherine Stewart, and I teach behavior analysis at Savannah State University, and I'm currently the chair of the Psychology RAC.
Good morning. My name is Michael Erickson. I'm the Vice President for Research at Georgia State, and I'm chair of the Administrative Committee on Public Health.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Drake Calhoun. I'm from Gordon State College. I'm Assistant Vice President of Academic Affairs there, and I'm the chair-elect for the RAC for adult learners, and I also serve on the eCore and the distance learning RACs as well.
I'm Stephanie Rollerson. I am the chair of the Adult Learner RAC, and I'm from the University of West Georgia.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Roz Barnes Fowler with the University System, and I am the liaison to the Adult Learner RAC.
Good morning. My name is James Wright. I'm chair of social sciences at Dalton State College and the chair-elect for the sociology RAC.
Good morning. My name is Christina Wolf, and I'm the chair of social sciences at Georgia Highlands College, and I am the chair of the sociology RAC.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Rutledge Petty, Associate Vice Chancellor for Healthcare and Policy with the System Office, and I serve as liaison for health informatics, health professions, nursing, and the public health RAC.
Good morning. I'm Jeff Galley at the University System of Georgia, and I serve as a liaison for the Arts and Sciences RAC and the Philosophy and Religion RAC, as well as work with Denise Tomisi and the CETLS Consortium.
Good morning. I'm Cynthia Bolton-Gary. I'm the Associate Vice Chancellor for Educator Preparation and Policy. I currently serve for the Educator Preparation RAC as well as the Humanities RAC.
Eric Karchner at Georgia Southern. I serve as the chair of the Foreign Languages RAC.
Hi, I'm Judy Monsis, and I am at the System Office, and I'm the liaison for the Family and Consumer Sciences and Environmental Sciences RACs.
And I'm Lucy Harrison, also at the System Office. I oversee Galileo and Affordable Learning Georgia, and I'm the liaison to the Libraries RAC.
Good morning. I am Elroy Windsor. I'm the chair of the Department of Anthropology, Psychology, and Sociology at the University of West Georgia, and I'm a Sociology RAC member.
Tony Chow, University of North Georgia, also on the Sociology RAC.
This is Paul Dahlgren, Chair of English and Modern Languages at Georgia Southwestern State University. I am chairing the Humanities RAC and a member of the English RAC.
Good morning. My name is Patrick Harris with the System Office. I'm the liaison for the Fine and Applied Arts and also the Foreign Languages.
Good morning. I'm Mike Garn with the System Office. I'm the liaison to Psychology and Social Work.
Happy Friday, everybody. I'm Dawn Bonnock. I'm an Interim Associate Dean for Faculty, Student Development, and Strategic Initiatives in the College of Humanities and Social Sciences at Kennesaw State, and I'm a Sociology RAC member.
Hi, this is Lori Haygood with the System Office. I'm the liaison for the Anthropology, Sociology, and Communications RACs.
Becky Corby, representing the system as a liaison for the Physics and Astronomy RAC, as well as the Geological Sciences and Geography RAC.
Do we have anybody else who'd like to introduce themselves?
I would, Barbara.
Okay.
My name is David Durrell. I'm an associate professor of geography at Georgia Gwinnett College, and I chair the Geographical Sciences and Geography RAC.
I'm John Sizemore. I'm the Associate Vice Chancellor for Digital Learning and Innovation, and I'm the liaison for the eCore RAC, Business, History, and Distance Education.
I'm Catherine Moore. I teach art at Georgia Gwinnett College, and I'm the secretary for the Fine and Applied Arts RAC.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Nicholas Silberg. I'm the chair of the Department of Fine Arts and Humanities at Savannah State University, and I'm also the chair of the Fine and Applied Arts.
Have we missed anybody? Okay, well, thank you all. That actually went a lot better than I thought it would. And I got to see more faces than I normally do even at the meeting. So I appreciate your willingness to step up. We are going to take a break of 15 minutes in about a half an hour. For those of you who have been sitting in since the beginning, I'm sure you'll be ready to get up and walk around. Basically, I've got a bunch of topics to go through today, kind of to make sure that everybody's hopefully on the same page as far as what we're going to be doing within the coming year. Now, some of you are return chairs and have heard some of this before. For a lot of our chairs are new because they tend to turn over every year. So it's important to get some basic information out there to get everybody kind of on the same page. I want to just start with something really basic, which is, why do we have RACs, and how are they supposed to function? Oops. It turns out there is a little paragraph in the Academic and Student Affairs Handbook about the RACs that lays out the basic structure that we work with. And so, they didn't just emerge out of nothing, but the Board of Regents wanted to have a mechanism for communicating with disciplines regarding policies at a lot of different levels. So basically, you can do things in your RAC other than work on BOR policies, but the fundamental reason that the RACs exist is to provide opinions and work on what's going on system-wide, and also to kind of spread things from the system back to the institutions. The RACs are supposed to meet at least once a year with a liaison present. This is really important because sometimes liaisons don't get invited to the meetings of their RACs, which makes it hard for them to to fulfill their function. I know this past year has been really challenging. Some of you who had planned on face-to-face meetings in the spring were not able to have them. That's fine, but please try and get in a virtual, at least a virtual. Please try to get in a virtual meeting during the 2021 academic year. So the liaison is supposed to be literally the term liaison, the word liaison. They're supposed to be a bridge between the RAC and the system office. And I try to remember whenever I communicate with RACs to copy it to the liaison, but I don't always succeed. But basically, they're a key bridging function. Now, here's something that's really important to me because it comes up all the time. The membership of the committees is appointed by the vice presidents for academic affairs at each institution. Now, I'm making a big deal about that because, first of all, sometimes I get emails from faculty saying, how did I get on this committee? As if I had evilly put them on. But everybody that's on a committee is appointed, well, on most committees, everybody that's on the committee is appointed by the vice president for academic affairs at their institution. And if you want to make a change, the vice president has to approve it. So recently on one or more of the committees, actually, people changed positions and said, okay, I'm not going to be in this position anymore. I'm going to pass my position on the committee on to so-and-so. Well, that I have to run that back up through the VPAA. So if you know of people, yeah, sorry, David. I'm laughing at David's comment. That's his story, and he's sticking to it. Dr. Brown must have found your name on the webpage. I do think that's what people think about how they get put on committees. But if changes are to be made, I have to run it back through the Vice President of Academic Affairs, such as David Jinks at the University of West Georgia. So if people are saying they need to switch out, please encourage them to go to their VPAA and have the VPAA forward that change to me. That saves me the step of having to go to the VPAA. And last but certainly not least, the committee selects a chair who serves a term determined by the bylaws. And those terms vary, and sometimes it's really hard for chairs to find somebody who will take over, so they end up serving multiple terms. And that's something that we'll talk about. It's not bad to have somebody serve multiple terms, but sometimes chairs come to feel like they are stuck because they can't get anybody to take over. And we don't want that to be the case. And Nicholas, I'll answer your question in just a minute. Okay, so essentially, on the committee, we've got a chair who's elected by the members who are appointed by the VPAAs at the various institutions, and the liaisons who are appointed by the system office. Now, Nicholas asked, how do we get an updated roster of RAC committee membership? And the official committee lists are posted on the committee's page, and I don't know if I can show it to you or not. Let's see. All right. Can you see the committee's page now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So on your agenda, I put almost all the links you need on the agenda. The link at the very top of the page on the agenda is, if you could only have one link to put on your desktop, that should be it. It takes you to this committee's page, and then if you click on your committee, it shows you essentially who the members are. And essentially, the people on this page are the ones who are officially appointed by their VPAAs. Now, when you have meetings, sometimes you like to invite other people. That is fine. but the people on this page are your official members. I update this. I haven't updated it since last night, but I almost literally update things right away when I get changes. So this should always be up to date. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is you might have a list that you've been working with that's not up to date. So, and we'll talk about listservs in a minute, but you can, again, your committee can be as inclusive as you want it to be, as long as you make sure that you include the people that are on this list here, including your University System of Georgia liaison. So did that answer your question, Nicholas? Or anybody else?
Absolutely, thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's see, we've already kind of gone through that. Okay. So one of the things about RACs is you've got to figure out how to communicate first with your members. You are welcome to set up listservs if you don't already have one. And on the agenda, I've given you the link that has the instructions on how to set one up. And I'll come back to that in a minute. But the other thing that I want to emphasize, and I think this is harder to do, is your RACs are also supposed to be a conduit to provide information back to people at institutions. So let's say you're on the psychology RAC and the RAC does certain things or makes certain decisions, then we expect that the representatives from each institution will also carry that information back to their colleagues at the institution. I think that does not happen very often, but that would be a really important function to emphasize to your members, is that it's not enough to have the discussions within your RAC. They're also intended to spread back to disciplined colleagues at the institution. So if we could cultivate that a little more than we have been, that would be really nice. Now, if you decide to set up a listserv, first, there are listservs for many committees. If you're one of these committees, please don't set up a new listserv. If you don't have access to your listserv, let me know and I'll help you to get access to the listserv for your committee. And some of you may have listservs that I don't know about. If they're USG listservs, I'd like to know about them. I'll explain why in a minute. If you decide to set up a listserv, the thing I would ask that you do is set me up as a quote unquote quiet owner. When you initially request the listserv, I don't know that you can do that, but just make me an additional owner. And then either I can do this later or you can do it. Move me to a quiet owner. This is the bottom half of this slide shows what it's like when you're using I think it's the configuration wizard. And I've also asked you to set up the help desks at UGA and the university system, so that, because nobody can help you if they don't have owner access. So putting me and the help desks on is a way of allowing me to help you. Now, if I'm an owner or a silent owner, I'm not on your listserv, I'm not seeing what you're publishing. I'm just there in case you need help. The other advantage of having me as a quiet owner is that a year ago when I started to work on this, it was very hard to get a grip on what RACs had listservs. If I'm a quiet owner, I can easily see the list of RACs that have listservs. And sooner or later, not sooner, but later, I will retire. And if I want to pass these duties on to somebody that can still assist the RACs, I need to have the full list and access, and then I can easily just switch that out. But anyway, so please, please, please somehow make me an owner, preferably a quiet owner. But that's just really so that I can help you. As I said, unless I'm a member of the listserv, I do not see what you publish. I'm just there to help. I know it's hard to believe somebody from the system office is there to help, but I really am. Okay, anybody have questions on these listservs? Okay, now the other thing I realized last night when I was working with something is that I need to go through these listservs and update them. Usually because basically these listservs exist with the list that came out last year plus anybody that you've added. And I need to go through and make sure that everybody that's on your official member list is on the listserv, which I can do pretty easily. So I think what I would like to propose, what I don't want to do is delete anybody that you want to keep on the list. So I think what I'll do is go through and add any new members to the list and then send you an email to say, look, I've updated your list. Take a look at it. Is there anybody that you would like to have removed, or do you want to keep everybody on the list? Because adding is one thing, subtracting is another. And I can show you how to see exactly who's on your list. Or actually, I think I will just send you an email of who's on the list and you can see it after I've done that. But my apology, I completely forgot about updating those lists until last night when it was too late to do it. Okay, anybody? Questions? All right. Then the other thing I just want to mention briefly, I mean, the minimum expectations for the RACs are that you have bylaws. We have a few RACs that either don't have bylaws or just don't have them posted. So if you have bylaws, you may want to review them, see if they need updating. If you don't have bylaws, please develop bylaws. You've got links on the agenda to a template for bylaws. You don't have to use the template, but it just makes it easier, and you can certainly modify it. And then an annotated version of the template that explains why things are where they are on the template, and I believe also offers you some options for changes that you might want to make. So the template is not meant to be dictatorial, it's meant to be plug and play. If you just want to get started and just get your bylaws, you can do it really, really quickly. Part of what should be in your bylaws is what I'm calling succession planning. And if you don't have this, you may find that you have become chair for life because nobody will volunteer to step up. Now, I do want to welcome, we have several new chairs that just stepped up within the past week. And I want to thank those of you who did that and those of you who have stepped up in the past. But most of you, when you took this on, didn't assume that you wanted to be a chair for life, which is why succession planning is so important. So a basic structure that you can have is you have a chair-elect who will take over next year, and then the former chair who becomes the immediate past chair. Some people have a secretary or recorder who then becomes the chair rather than having a chair-elect. Some committees have a treasurer, and in ordinary years, I think having a treasurer is a good idea because you have to somehow collect money for meetings. But this year, where everybody will be meeting virtually, I would put the idea of treasurer on the back burner. And when we start meeting again face-to-face, I'll talk more about why you might want to have a treasurer. But basically, you should have a current chair and a chair who's waiting in the wings so you don't have to have a dragnet to find somebody to take over as chair at the end of your term. Please try to meet once a year. This should be really easy if we're doing virtual meetings. and maintain and post minutes and other documents that are relevant to your committee. Now, I'm assuming this year that everybody's gotten so used to doing virtual meetings that planning a virtual meeting won't be a problem for you, but if it is, let me know. I can certainly assist you with setting up a virtual meeting. That's not a problem. Anyone with questions on this? All right. I suggest you plan your meeting dates as soon as possible, trying to avoid conflicts with large system-wide meetings. Okay, I see a question there. I'll get it in just a second. Plan your meeting dates as soon as possible, trying to avoid conflicts. So one of the links that I've given you on the agenda under meetings is a link to essentially the possible conflicts that we're aware of. In most years, there are a lot of meetings scheduled. This is kind of what it looks like. We don't have very many meetings on the books yet because of COVID, but you might want to just check this. And again, if you see a meeting is scheduled, it may or may not be a conflict for your group. It's only a conflict if you have group members that are likely to be in this other meeting. Okay, so definitely virtual meetings for this year, and possibly even for the next year. Now, someone has asked, why would a RAC need a treasurer? I assume there's not any budget from the USG. Yes, there is no budget from the USG, but if you're having, in an ordinary year, if you're having face-to-face meetings and you have to either reserve space or serve food or both, you need to collect money from your members, which is a pain in the neck. And that's why essentially in past years I've advocated electing a treasurer for life, because it's a pain in the neck to set up the accounts that you need at the institution, so that you can collect money and spend money. This year with virtual meetings, I don't see any need to collect or spend money. So that's why I'm taking the idea of a treasurer off the table for this year. But some of you already have treasurers, and just keep them. But nobody needs to go out and do a special treasurer this year, in my opinion. I wish there was a budget from the USG, because if there was, then we could handle all of that and we wouldn't need individual committee treasurers. Oops. Okay. In terms of the charges to the academic committees, I've sent, I think I got all the committees, some version of charges for the coming year. And the most important charge is to make recommendations about the cut scores for course credit based on standardized exams, including AP, CLEP, and DSST. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time explaining that because, frankly, this is year 3 on this project, and it just hasn't moved forward as we'd hoped it would. And I really don't want to have this on the agenda for next year. I'm hoping we can finish this off. But part of the reason that it hasn't moved forward as we'd hoped it would is I don't think we explained adequately how to do it. And I just sent you guys, each committee has a list of the standardized exams that I would like them to look at. Basically, 2 years ago, the expectation was AP. Last year, the expectation was CLEP, and this year, the expectation is DSST. But since most of that actually hasn't been done, we have now all 3 for this year, and I'm hoping that we can get that done. Now, in terms of, I'm going to skip over that. Okay, in terms of the standardized exams, the ones we're worried about, as I said, are AP, CLEP, and Dante's or DSST. And I've given you some references on the agenda. If you click on the link for expectations around setting standards, it'll take you to a page with some resources. The resources, unfortunately, have changed within the past month. So when I set up the charges that I sent out to you, the links were one thing. And then I discovered yesterday, while preparing this stuff to send out, that some of the links had changed. So basically, I did my best quickly, but I'm going to have to, I will probably send each of you an updated set of links. So not an updated set of expectations, but just links that will be helpful. What we really want you to do, let's see if this is, okay. What we really want you to do is look at each exam, and it is possible, I think, for both AP and CLEP, for you to get access to actually instances of the test to take them. They'll probably send you to old tests. And I definitely have links to information sheets about each test. But if you need more information than you have, let me know. I've got some sources that can help me to get access to these. I don't think we can get access to the DSST exam itself, but certainly the information about it. So I've given you those links. There's also a link to a validity study on success of students who took AP courses and got credit for them later when they went on in the USG. So this is a USG-based AP validity study that I've given you a link to if you're kind of not a believer. And what we really want, and this is where we got the message garbled in the past, is we want a single recommendation on each test from each committee. We don't want you to worry about what all the other different institutions are doing. We want to know, you as people in the discipline, looking at the test, what do you think the cut score should be to get any credit at all? What courses should people get credit for? And how many credit hours does that essentially come out to? I'm going to give you some examples in a minute, but there's something called the American Council on Education. And this is a national education organization. Some of you know about it. We routinely have people in the system that become ACE fellows and study, go to another institution for a year to learn about how that institution gets run. It's a very reputable organization. And one of the things that they do is they evaluate these kinds of tests and recommend the amount and type of credit to be awarded, as well as the cut score for awarding credit. And they've done that for AP, CLEP, and DSST. And they're the ones, unfortunately, that reshuffled their web pages within the last month. So that's where I'm going to have to get caught up again. But here's an example of part of the ACE credit. So ACE is recommending credit based on these exams. So they're a credit recommendation service. Sometimes people talk about ACE credit, but ACE doesn't offer tests. All they really do is make recommendations for credit based on their evaluation. And their evaluations are done by faculty from a variety of institutions. So ACE here for the AP tests, this page. So if you took the AP art history course, they recommend credit if you scored a 3 or higher on the AP test. And remember, 5 is the highest on AP. A 3 is generally considered to be roughly equivalent to a C in a college level course. And my dog is going to help me here. You remember, we have transfer agreements for the core where, if students get a C or higher at any institution, they transfer to another institution, that credit transfers. So you should be thinking of this as kind of what would be comparable to somebody getting a course grade of C at another institution. Now here, I'm sorry, I'm going to grab this dog and get him to stop barking. Sharon, this is for you. My little munchkin. Okay. So a C, or basically a 3 should be roughly considered as a C or better. Here for art history, you can see that they have recommended if you got a 3 on the art history that you get credit for 6 semester hours, or essentially 2 courses. Biology, you get a 3, they recommend 8 credit hours, which presumably includes the lab credit, etc. And so that's their recommendation. So I'd be looking for something similar from your groups. And I think that you should bear in mind that this national organization has come down in favor of saying if you get a 3 or more, it's good for this. We recommend that it's good for this amount of credit. For AP, they don't really describe the types of course credit that you could award. For CLEP and DSST, they used to, and I'm not sure if they still do. Okay. Let me just, let's, that's a good stopping point for the moment. Let's take a 15-minute break.